Hey Ariel, so nice to see
Hi,
you.
nice to
Hey,
see you. How's it going?
yeah, good, thanks. How are you doing?
Good. I think I'm having a sense memory of last year when I was in Ibiza.
Yeah, it's about this time last year, or maybe a couple of months. It was May.
Yeah,
No, April.
I
It
think
was
it was
April.
like April, I think. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
nice.
So I just want to settle in for a second.
Yeah.
'Cause I have a question, but I feel like my ego is trying to take control. So, over the past, well, really over the past year, the the love for non-duality has continued, and sometimes I want to ask a question, like I want to call in, but then it just dissolves. Like, what would the question even be? Like,
Yeah,
I don't believe the question.
yeah,
Um, but then another phase takes over where I get swept up in my career and in I need to create more things and I need to establish myself more in my identity more in the world so that I can be more successful. And I have a business partner who's really focused on the expansion and the progress of my identity also. And of course, depending on your beliefs, that can just be a projection of myself I'm putting on that person too. Um, so I guess I'm just feeling really yanked back and forth right now in myself between the love of non-duality, which feels like a real dissolving when I'm in it, then this big, strong, like the worldly identity making that
yeah,
also takes me, but hurts.
yeah,
Like I don't
yeah,
believe it at the
yeah,
time.
yeah. There's nothing wrong with being creative in your work. Like, we love to create. That's part of being human. We're creators. We love that. The creativity.
Yeah,
So there's nothing wrong in that side. It's when the suffering is, and I know that you know this, it's when you, not even consciously, but the energy is looking for completion in that creativity. That's when it hurts. It can be exciting, so it can have highs, like you feel like you're nearly there or you're going to get it. But it hurts ultimately because you can never get anything outside of yourself. But the creativity, we love to create. That's part of being human. Sometimes people get into this message and they think it's about sitting on the sofa or not doing anything, but actually, we love activity and creating as humans. We love to build, to think, to imagine things.
yeah, yeah. That feels so organic.
Yeah,
No matter what feels dominant inside me, creativity is, well, it's more organic even when I'm not success focused, I would
yeah,
say.
yeah,
Um, Things bloom more easily. I have I guess in traditional psychotherapeutic terms, it would be called codependence.
yeah,
Like the tendency inside me to, even if I don't believe someone else's ideology, feel the need to satisfy what they describe as their need for completion.
yeah,
Um, so I find that energy very hard to resist when
yeah,
someone else has a strong desire, even if in my heart I'm like, I I'm so rich and I have a sense that it's all happening.
yeah,
I don't feel lack in my daily life. I
yeah,
feel incredible abundance, but
yeah.
there's almost like a vacuum like energy that pulls me into other people's
Desires.
desires that as they relate to me and them
Yeah,
needing things from me.
yeah, I see. There can be in the positive light that can be really beautiful to respond to somebody's desire when it's not identified. Like, I'm just thinking um, about those times when you resonate with someone and someone gets excited by something or gets excited by an idea, and you have an open heart to be able to take that on. That can be a beautiful thing. It always comes. So what I'm trying to say is, don't give yourself a hard time for being codependent, because I see there's always positive in everything. Like, always positive in everything. So, and sometimes with psychology we beat ourselves up and we use it as but also to have that ability to resonate with somebody's other desire and to follow that passion. And I know that's not, codependency is a lot more complicated than that, but it all comes down to if you believe love is giving them that. If you believe love is giving them their desire, then this is when you compromise yourself and you start doing things out of your flow in order to satisfy them. And this is when you hurt. But actually resonating with their desire, I know I do. So like when somebody has a strong desire and I touch into that, I find it very enjoyable. Not if it's coming from like a strong seeking energy, but like if you tap into their creativity or you tap into their sexual energy or something, it's really a very enjoyable thing if you are feeling that way towards them. But when you begin to feel that doing that completes you, this is when you sell yourself. And this is what hurts us. This is the pain, is that you sell yourself to be a certain way, to step out of your flow in order to make the other happy. But you can tap into their desire. So if they have a desire to build a house and you wouldn't like have that desire ordinarily, but you get into that excitement, like I love it. Like somebody starts telling me, I can so susceptible to people's suggestions. So somebody starts telling me they love gardening and trees, and I can so get into the passion. Like I'll suddenly next be wanting a tree or wanting to create a garden. It's just the suffering always comes from believing that your I am is found there. And what I mean by I am is that love, that when you're by yourself, that abundance that you feel, that fullness that you feel is in someone else. And it's just seeing that. It's not necessarily not responding to their desire or not being excited by their desire. It's seeing that nothing completes you. Nothing, which is so profound. Not a thing completes you. So it's here all the time. If it's a thing, then you're always going to suffer. And with the psychology, like I'm sure that psychology terms like could be labeled as lots of different things. So it's important to understand these things and to understand the character, to be a more healthy character. But don't allow that to not see your positive in all things, because there's always positive in everything.
Yeah, and I think there's also a little like switcheroo I do where I pull a tarot card every once in a while, which I find to be like freakishly right on all the time. But I pulled a tarot card 2 days in a row. I pulled the Four of Clubs, which is about like, it's kind of about like hidden self-interest. And when you're wanting to, sorry if there's like tarot experts listening, I'm getting this wrong, but this is my interpretation.
And that's all that's important. Your interpretation.
Yeah, like when you kind of become covetous of yourself, and I think like...
What I don't understand what you mean, covetous. Like hiding yourself or hiding your desire?
Well, I think sometimes through the excuse of spirituality, will close myself to someone else and become guarded against them, when the opening energy or the heart energy would be to move towards them and their energy.
And why do you move away?
Yeah, like even the idea of codependence is there's kind of a story in there that I'm a victim of someone else's power.
Yeah.
And I therefore need to protect myself from it. And I feel like what this card was reflecting to me was that there's also a real falsity in that story.
Yeah.
And the idea that I even need to protect myself.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. It's also seeing that part of life is to fall and tumble and to be hurt. Like that's part of life. And to know these games, to understand the psychological terms around it, and to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. And this is really important to help the body balance out. But also at the same time, if that's got to act out again, that's got to act out again. Is there something else that's got to be learned there? We learn our most from falling, from tumbling, from tripping over. It's the other half of life. I'm not saying do or don't do it. I'm not saying go and live with a power-hungry person. I'm not suggesting either way. But this is sometimes the problem with psychology. It's really, this is beyond the intellect, and it's so important learning all these things, and I'm so pro it. But following your heart is way beyond the intellect, and life is mysterious, and life has opposites. It has growth and it has destructions. Everything that grows will be destroyed. Everything. So the relationship will bloom and then it will peter out. We can't save ourselves from this movement. The suffering comes from trying to save ourselves, but it doesn't mean that you put yourself in stupid situations. I'm not implying that either. Just be very, when the situation presents itself, just really deeply go inside and see what the true motivation is. Really give it some space to see what your heart is actually saying.
What the true motivation inside me is.
Yeah, and what the heart is really saying beyond that, like what it's wanting to do, and then see all these other ideas and just go really quietly inside, and go down to the most is innate the right? No, not innate. The most initial, I'm trying to remember that word, the first feeling that appears, and that's where you'll find the answer. Not in the other ones, but the first feeling. That's the way life is expressing, like the first feeling that, and I know that sounds really hard to do, but when you're sensitive to the body, you know what I mean, like just directly into the center of yourself. And this is where the guide is. The guide is you, as yourself, as that essence.
I have been like deeply practicing that as much as one can practice, and I find what happens when I have a sense that I've dropped down to zero is at the other end I pop up and I write a really clear email, or like the kind of layers of analysis that have been creating inflammation around the issue are gone, because I just need to say need to say this, and this is what it is, and it's so obvious. Like action comes very quickly and organically.
And don't expect it to be right or appreciated by others, but it's what's got to happen. You've got to speak your flow, or you've got to do your flow. Like when I say it might not be appreciated, they might not agree with it, but as long as you're being honest in every moment, you know it comes from love, because your nature is love. Even if you tumble or you get it wrong, that organic natural impulse is love, because your essence is love. Even if you hurt the other, like you never mean to, you're doing it innocently in a way. But all these things, so all that analysis and understanding, they've all played their part in order for you to go directly to the center of being. It's not even you going to the center, but the energy coming back to the center of being. And when that you begin to go back into time and into a story, just take yourself quietly to let that energy play out, and it's almost like a vibration into time, and then as it stills down, then you'll begin to see it again. Like, don't quickly act out of fear or quickly act out of these things. Like, go back into it.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
And like I said, I do a lot of practices throughout the day. I don't have much of a social life anymore, mostly just because I love to come back and like feel the isness of what's happening and let it stabilize. But oftentimes when I get into that space, and I teach yoga and meditation for a living, so then I'll show up to teach a class, and there will be such clarity and resonance with me and with the group, and like beautiful things unfold, and it's not about me and it's not about them. It's like I can sense the unity, but then, and it's so wonderful, and there's such power to it, and then it's almost like I think of those puppets with the giant heads, like this kind of claiming energy of mine comes in after, and wants to claim credit, and I did that. And it's like, so my head becomes so heavy to carry around when that happens. And it almost seems like it's getting worse. Like I'm like the elephant man, because it's like the more the resonance happens that I know has nothing to do with me. It's like, then the more that really top heavy claiming energy happens, that is increasingly uncomfortable. I seem to go away.
I feel like it's clearing out, and just don't expect it to, in the timeline, in the apparent story, don't expect it to be quick, because what's quick to a human isn't quick in the appearance of this expression. It's like a tiny raindrop. And I feel like that happens, that when you're waking up, your places where you get stuck get highlighted, and it's almost like they get more and more extreme until they explode. So mine was always low self-esteem and like insecurity, and it's like life just kept putting that to me, like just kept presenting situations where I felt like I wasn't good enough.
Did that feel more intense than it had before?
It was like more extreme, so there was more freedom, and then the suffering was more extreme.
Do you think it was because it was more extreme, or do you think you were more sensitive to it?
That's a really good question, and yeah, I'm sure that's what it is. It's like you've taken off the plasters. So before that, so when it was like the most extreme, I wasn't doing things like trying to make myself feel better, or trying to hurt someone else, or trying to put them down, or playing all these power games. I was just giving myself the opportunity to feel that feeling and to be vulnerable, but I didn't even know I was doing that. But I wasn't acting it out, so I wasn't going and drinking or going and partying or going and getting myself another boyfriend, or I was just giving myself the opportunity to experience it. So it is most probably that I wasn't putting the plasters on top, so I wasn't dampening down the feeling. And I do feel now that everything is more extreme, so when I do feel feelings, they're bigger. Like everything's so energetical, like everything is so extreme, like because it's energy. Whereas before you're locked in the prison of thinking, so you're removed from it. And then as you drop more and more into the body, everything, like pain hurts more, pleasure is more enjoyed, like everything is more.
And that self-consciousness seems like it stops a lot of us. Like I was looking on your Facebook feed last night on your video about love in the hotel room. Love video, and it was like so radical. It was like so full. I think many of us, like, it's self-consciousness is such a funny word, because it's you're conscious of yourself as an identity, and that kind of stops things. But I think for most of us, there's so many layers of breaks that we put on from our actual feelings to what we allow ourselves to emote.
And I do still get embarrassed. Like some of the things that I do, I get embarrassed, and I can feel my cheeks glowing. But I also feel like a fool. Like I can't really perceive it in time like I used to be able to. Like I can't really look out of it. But in the moment, I can feel sometimes those things I do, like, oh, that's so embarrassing. But at the same time, like today when I was talking to that lady, and I was talking to this lady, and I just suddenly, this is so boring. Like we were talking about taxes, and I was like, I won't make you talk about this anymore. It's so boring. And I suddenly blushed, because I think she blushed that I'd said our conversation was boring, and then I blushed. But at the same time, I can't really perceive it in time. It's like all of that happens, but I can't really remove myself to look and think of what I would be. Whereas I remember before, I was always had this removal of like watching myself. Not always, but and the more intense that was, the more I was watching myself, the more I suffered. And the less I watched myself, the more I was free, like a child.
It seems that when you get embarrassed, though, then you think your embarrassment is kind of funny.
Yeah, I can't perceive it as such. It's like the body gets embarrassed, and then I can't really perceive it. It sounds weird, but I can't really look at myself. It just
Yeah, it
isn't.
doesn't seem like it's a problem. It just seems like it's more aliveness the way you
Yeah,
respond
yeah,
to it.
yeah. But all it's like it's what I trying to encourage is that all of us is welcome. It's all about totally embracing yourself as you are with all your vulnerabilities and all your quirks and all of
Yeah, like
us.
you're not getting out of this body
No.
still.
and and you know, and I still act out of conditioning because I came with such terrible low self-esteem. I still have the conditioning where I over listen to other people. Like people tell me things, like forceful personalities tell me things, and I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So I still have the qualities of my conditioning. Like all of us are, and then I suddenly remember that they're not necessarily right, and then I'm like, oh yes, yes, they're not necessarily right. But I have that conditioning because of growing up, always being told, bless my family and teachers, but they were telling me I was always wrong, that I can still have this conditioning where I over listen to people. Like, so we all are going to have these conditionings of this body, but I also think it's quite funny that I over listen to people because I can be so wise, but yet somebody tells me something so stupid, and I'm like, wow, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So the personality or whatever, the conditioning still has a momentum. The momentum
Yeah.
might have a trajectory.
Yeah.
But so what?
Yeah, yeah. And it kind of makes me a neat teacher because I don't have that personality. You know, that personality that's all like, I'm the knower. I just don't, not that that's wrong. A different personality type would have that, but I just don't have that because as a child I was dyslexic, very badly dyslexic. So at school I was always told I was wrong. Like I failed everything. Like I was always failing at school. And then with my parents, they're both quite perfectionists. So they also had that momentum as well, that you couldn't do. So I just grew up thinking that I was not getting it right or not right. And so I don't have that strong personality. It's like, I'm right. Whereas normally the teacher is filled by somebody that's got that strong personality. And so it's quite neat that I've ended up speaking about this and I don't have that strong, I have quite a, like also, I don't know. So it's all got its good and bad sides, every part of us. Every part of us. But I can also be led astray. Somebody could sell me something that's really, really rubbish. And I'm like going away like, look what I got. Woohoo! They give me a good sales pitch and I'm like, oh yeah, oh yeah. I did almost in Australia buy two cars that were stuck together. Like
Two cars?
that were stuck together. I don't know if you get this in America. They could do this. Like they can stick two cars together. They're the same car, but like it might have been the car crash.
Like there was two accidents or something,
Yeah.
and then they steal
Stick
it
it together, yeah, and then they sell it. And I almost bought it, and then I took my friend to pick it up with me, so he drove me there. He was like, "Don't buy it! It's two cars stuck together," and I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know you could have that."
Well, it's kind of like the ultimate representation of oneness. Might be the right vehicle for you.
Yeah.
Lisa, thank you so much for your teachings and for being not too overtly authoritative.
Yeah.
Like, for not inspiring my submissive.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Oh, thanks for calling. It was lovely to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you too.
Yeah. Maybe I'll see you
How's
somewhere
the
else.
south of France? Is the air good?
Oh, it's beautiful. I just love it here. Yeah, I love it. It's been really sunny the last 4 or 5 days. And so it's like cold, just that tiny bit of coldness in the air because it's March. But at the same time, bright blue skies and really warm in the sunshine. It's my favourite. And the flowers are beginning to bloom.
Amazing.
Yeah, nice.
Well, thank you.
Oh, thanks, sweetie. Beautiful questions. Thank you. Lots of
Okay,
love.
bye.
Bye.